Good morning, everyone, and you're very welcome to the very first of our virtual career series focusing in on business and finance. And to kickstart our event, we are delighted to welcome Dbass Chartered Accountants to launch this event and this particular series of business and finance. We are joined this morning with a range of different professionals at different stages of their careers and in different aspects of their careers from Dbass. And starting with Sive Dowling and her colleagues, Jackie, John, and Giuliano. And they will take you through their experiences. Just to say to everybody that today is as interactive session as we want it to be, and that there is on the right-hand side of your screen a chat and questions function. So we really do encourage you to get involved in this presentation and ask any questions that you have. We'll hold those off till the end when there'll be around about 5-10 minutes for a Q&A. But other than that, I'm going to hand over now to Sive, who's going to take you through their presentation. Thanks very much, Sive.
Thanks, Catherine. So firstly, welcome to everyone this morning. We're delighted you were able to join us to hear a little bit more about Dbass Chartered Accountants. My team this morning is myself, obviously, who I work in a marketing function for Dbass. Then I'm going to hand over to John Grogan, who is one of our current trainees. Next, I'll hand over to Giuliano Lochran, who's also a current trainee. And lastly, but not least, is Jackie Kavanagh, who's our HR person. She's joined us fairly recently in a HR capacity within the company. So I'm going to move on there just from the first slide to tell you a little bit about our company. So we were founded in 1988 by Dermot Brennan, and Dermot is one of the existing partners of the firm. We have 3 partners in total at the moment. We have approximately 28 members of staff at the moment. Now that's growing. We're very much a growing firm, and we take on 3 to 4 new trainees every year. Now to give you an idea, that 28 staff is made up of our partners, our managers, we have seniors, and we have trainees. And then outside of that, we have support people. So that would be people like myself, Jackie, our receptionary, we have some admin, that kind of thing. So we're a substantial enough team within our 28 at the moment. Just to give you an idea of what we do in terms of a service offering, might seem like common sense for accountancy and audit, assurance services, business advisory, taxation compliance, revenue audits and investigation, and strategic tax planning. So roughly speaking, across all our clients, we would give them an offering of various levels of those different services depending on what they require. Our approach is very much based on long-term relationships. So it's very much about that loyalty. So developing a kind of a loyalty over a period of time with a client. And we would have an awful lot of clients who are with us quite a long time, and therefore there is a lot of loyalty there with them. From a sector perspective, we have clients in all different areas. So anything from retail to wholesale, hospitality, tourism, we've property construction, transport and logistics. Family businesses we have separately. Now, the reason why I have that in separately is we deal with a lot of different family businesses, and they're in all different sectors. We specify it separately just so we can highlight the fact that it's very different dealing with a family business, and we have a very distinct set of expertise to specifically help out the family business. So we do tend to kind of highlight that as being something separate. If you're interested in finding out a little bit more about that, we do have a little link there, and you can go on and read testimonials from some of our clients. So get an idea of who we actually work with and what their experience is with Dbass. It can be kind of helpful to give you an idea of what we're all about. And moving on to what we're all about, we call it the Dbass way. It's effectively our ethos. It's the way we look at things within the firm. It's how we handle things. It's how we expect people joining us to understand how we do things and to maybe get on board and do that themselves. So firstly there, I say we think proactively. Now, what I mean by that is we're always looking to add value to our service offering. So it's not just about a client coming to us and saying, this is what I need and this is what I want you to work on. It's about looking down the line for them and seeing, oh, potentially they're going to need something else. And we're going to be able to realize that for them and maybe highlight it to them and cost it for them and give them an idea where they're going to be. And next, I say we work with great people. Now, that's twofold. That's not just the clients we work with. That's also obviously the people we take on board into our organization to work with our clients. So when I say great people, we all want to work with great people. We all want to work with people who make us feel good and people who are great to be around and who are interesting. And we look for that in our clients as well. So we're seeking out a good relationship with our clients the whole time. And it's very important to us. Simplicity is the next one there. So we stand for simplicity. What I mean by that is that lack of jargon. So accountancy tends to be associated with jargon and language and things that people understand within the industry. For us, it's all about making sure that that's clear to a client, that when they talk to us, they don't feel like we're spouting out words to them, that we're actually talking to them on, about things that are specific to their business. And that's really, really important to us. Next, I have there achieving excellence. Now, that probably seems like one you'd say, well, everybody does that, but it's really, really important to us. And what I mean from that is that personal touch, that for every client gets that personal touch. They get that time to allow us to understand their business. It's really, really important at Dbass that we understand what they're looking for, and it allows us to give them the best possible service. So that just gives you an idea of how we do things. I have a slide in there on corporate social responsibility. Now, I'm going to say up front that COVID has had a huge impact on this for our company. Prior to COVID, we would have done a lot of community involvement. We would have sponsored a lot of sports clubs. We would have taken part in a lot of events and a lot of charity work. So that is going to come up again, obviously, when COVID isn't an issue anymore. So working at Dbass, well, we have bright, modern office space and we can offer parking. So that's not something obviously every firm can offer, but because of our location, we can. We're based in Ashbourne and County Meath, so we have a little bit of space there. We've dedicated break and kitchen space, so nice places to kind of have your coffee and relax with your colleagues when we're allowed to do that again, obviously. Cafe quality coffee, and I mean cafe quality coffee. It's nice, really nice coffee. We've 4 team events a year and regular lunches. Now, obviously, COVID had an impact on that, but the kind of things I'm talking about are going kayaking with your colleagues, going go-karting. We did a treasure hunt through Dublin one year, which was great fun altogether. So we'll get back to all that now, obviously, as soon as we're allowed. And we do a chocolate box for everybody on their birthday. Now, prior to COVID, we did a cake, but we have to obviously do things in the safest possible way. So we now do a lovely chocolate box, which is supplied by a local supplier who does kind of luxury chocolates and stuff like that. So it was really, really nice. And the last thing there, which is probably the first thing all of you spotted as soon as I opened the slide, on Fridays, we finish at 2:30. And that one speaks for itself. Obviously, it's great to finish early on a Friday. So moving on there, from a benefits perspective, we are very much about workplace wellness. So over the last couple of years, we've worked really hard on this, and we know how important it is. At Dbass, we support our staff in their wellness journey. So we're always looking at ways to provide that little bit of extra help for everybody. We have an employee assistance program. So what we offer there is things like counselling support, bereavement supports, that kind of thing that allows you to, I suppose, have a little bit of extra help from your organisation. So we offer that. We have Cycle to Work scheme. We have wellness people coming in on a regular basis to do mindfulness events. And we also have discounted gym membership, which is something we're renegotiating as well, because obviously with COVID, that was affected in that. And just lastly there, the environment. So we're always looking at ways to use our technology to make sure that we can, I suppose, that we can save on paper, that we can do practical things that we can do day to day that will help that within our organisation. So I think that is me. I think sadly John may have lost his internet connection there. So I think what we might do, I know it's a little bit out, we might just move on to Giuliano. Giuliano, if that's okay with you, and that'll keep things moving along. And if John comes back into us, we can come back to John. So I'm going to hand over, and thank you very much to Giuliano.
No problem. Hi everyone, my name is Julian Locker, and I'm just currently working in the tax department at Dbass. I just have a few slides. I'm just going to talk about my experience with Dbass and with ACA. So the first slide I have here is just my story and why I chose Dbass. So the first one I have there is to gain experience within areas such as taxation and accounting, and working within industry, you may end up specializing in one area and not receiving that broad exposure. So it was all about me getting that broad exposure with taxation and accounting and not really going down specializing in one just yet. The next point I have here is to gain exposure working with various sectors. So as within industry, you may be working within one particular sector. So as previously I've mentioned many sectors, and again, it was about getting that broad exposure to all these sectors rather than going into one particular industry. The next is to work with a technology-focused firm which uses state-of-the-art systems, for example, TaxPro, which is a tax software which I use daily, and it's actually mostly used by accounting firms. So if I just move on, the next slide I have here is just my first year working in the tax department. So mainly I prepare the following returns, which include income tax, capital gains tax, capital acquisitions tax, and value added tax. So I get a lot of exposure to many different tax heads within working in the tax department. And then some of the examples of training that I've received involve Tax Pro, Microsoft Excel, and a few others such as time management skills and business writing skills, which surprisingly are very beneficial when you're working. The next slide I just have here is just a bit about the ACA qualification. So I'm currently pursuing the ACA qualification through a 3.5-year training contract with Dbass. And there's just a few key points I just want to point out when pursuing this qualification, which are that it's a similar process when like sitting exams at college. So you kind of start in around the autumn time, and you go through with just various webinars that you attend and going through material, and then you have your final exam in June. The next is that I felt there was very generous paid study leave for your exams. And the third point I have here is just the completion of CA diaries. This is something that I wasn't too familiar with. So, and it's basically consists of just doing like kind of monthly summaries of your work and just the experience that you gained and what you've learned. Lastly, I just have like a tip here, which is just if you obtained all Cap 1 exemptions with the degree that you're doing, there might be an option where you might split the Cap 2 exams over the 2 years. So you might do 2 in the first year and then 2 in the second year. And by doing that, you'll leave your FEAs in the final year. So you'll kind of still finish your qualification and in the time of your training contract. But again, this is entirely up to you. So that's just my experience on myself working in Dbass and pursuing the ACA qualification so far. So I guess will I pass to Jackie if you want to start?
We have John back now.
John, yeah, a bit of issue there, sorry.
You're all right. The main thing is that we have you back. Do you want to go through your story?
Yeah, I just have to go back. Yeah. That's my first one. Sorry about that, folks. So yeah, starting out, I graduated from Dundalk in 2019 and applied to obviously many practices as most people do, and thankfully got a job here in Dbass. I decided to look for a job in practice rather than industry simply because it gives me the opportunity to work in multiple areas of accountancy such as tax and audit, etc. Dbass also provides great support for the exams. Now, different to Giuliano, I see a question there from Pat O'Neill, I'm doing the ACCA qualification instead. I'm the only one doing it. But DKIT gives you great exemptions from the professional exams, ACCA. So, and also working here gives me a great variety of clients to work with. And working as part of the audit team, I get to go on site and do different things like stock takes and such, as well as giving me a couple of different opportunities for progression and learning and development for my career. So if we move on there to the day-to-day. So yeah, as I was saying, generally I work in the audit department. There's a couple of us here. And I work on different audit assignments. So I would take it from the planning stage, which is where you would interact with the client and get all the information needed for the audit, and then take it right through to the completion stage, where it is normally the audit report would be signed by the partners. Sorry. I've also got experience in preparing the tax returns such as VAT and corporation tax. Hopefully I'll get to work on a bit of maybe income tax just to broaden my tax experience there. Maybe Giuliano can give me a bit of hand with that down the line. I've also, the accounting software as well we use here is mainly Sage, which I think most practices use. And I also have got experience in the CCH accounts production and also a small bit of Tax Pro. And yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I joined Dbass in March 2020, which was right as the pandemic started, unfortunately. And I'm on a 3.5-year training contract, and I'm studying for the ACCA, the qualification. I had 9 exemptions from DKIT, so I only have 4 exams to sit, which is grand actually. And working through the ACCA qualification has led me to gain the experience necessary to pass these exams. I already passed 1 just there in the summer gone past, and I am working towards the professional audit exam in December, and working in the audit team has given me great experience, and I look forward to actually passing this one as well, hopefully. And then I'm on to my final 2 next year. Yeah, and then finally, as career goals, hopefully complete the ACC exams next year and then become an affiliate. And then I would think I'd like to pursue a career as a forensic accountant, which is similar to audit. It means kind of helping government organizations, financial institutions, etc., to identify fraud and or money laundering, which becomes so important these days. And I suppose, yeah, working in Dbass and in particular the audit department will ensure that I gain the necessary experience to further my career in those areas. And that's me. Do you want to take it away there, Jackie?
I will indeed. Thank you very much for that, John. Let me just move to my own slides now so you know exactly what I'm talking about, hopefully. Thank you, everybody, for your time and attention this morning. And thank you to Catherine for having us. It's much appreciated. I'll try to make this as painless as possible for everybody. But as I've explained, I look after HR in Dbass. And as I'm sure you all know, a good CV and a good grade and a well-written cover letter will only get you so far. When we're looking to recruit people, there are certain qualities that we do look for. So really top of the list there for us is communication skills. It's so important. You have to be good at communicating both verbally and written in your own interest, because when you come into us, you will be assigned to a team, and there's in each team you would have your manager and a couple of fellow trainees and maybe another senior member of staff, depending on which team you're assigned to. So it's important from the get-go that, as part of your training, you're able to communicate well with your manager, you're able to communicate well with your colleagues because you are part of a team. And then as you learn and as you progress, you will be dealing with clients. So equally, that's where it becomes also very important. Another aspect there is an eagerness to learn. I think all of the trainees, John and Juliana, will testify that as a company, you learn from day one and you never stop learning, and you will never get to the stage where you'll say, okay, I know it all now. That never happens. Okay. I mean, I'm not an accountant, I'm HR, and I'm still learning. And that's a good way to be. The other quality we look for is a team player, because as I explained, when you join the company, you will be assigned to a team. So there's no one person working on their own. Okay, my role in particular, I'm HR, I'm the only one working in HR, but I still feel very much part of the team in Dbass. You must have a strong work ethic. My hat goes off to these trainees. They do a full-time job, and then they go home, and then they have to sign on and do a lecture, and then they have to study and do exams. So needless to say, you need a strong work ethic to keep that going. Flexible and adaptable, there are two qualities that really came into light as a result of COVID. I mean, I think we've all had to learn to work a different way. We've all had to embrace technology through Teams and meetings and all that type of thing. So they are important qualities to have. A willingness to succeed is also very important, because we invest in you. We invest in your training. We invest in you as a person. And we want you to succeed. And we can only do so much. So the other half of that has to come from you. So that's so important. And then obviously, last but not least, honesty, integrity. That goes without saying. If you can't trust an accountant, then you're in trouble. So these are important qualities that we look for in all of our trainees coming on board. Skills that I suppose we would consider to be in demand that necessarily just don't fall under the guise of just your qualification are soft skills. So what are soft skills? So an example of that would be building relationships. How do you build relationships? By being a good communicator. So it's all hand in hand. Creative thinking is also important. An example of this is where we recently partnered with a new system and everything was going great, but then we found out we were getting same queries from clients. So, okay, so how do we fix this to make this run more smoother? So again, it's about thinking a little bit outside the box. Technical skills, if you're a whiz at Excel, that helps, but you don't have to be, because again, how we approach our trainees, that when you come in the door, we start from scratch, okay? Our only expectation of trainees, and I can't drill this home enough, is that you ask questions. That's what our expectation is. We worry if you're sitting at your desk, you're not asking us any questions, because we want you to learn. So again, problem solving is a very, I suppose, huge aspect of accounts. And, Obviously, if you're good at problem solving, that's great. But, you know, can you think outside the box? Can you look at it from a different angle? That's always a good quality to have. And commercial awareness. I mean, do you keep abreast of what's going on in our industry? Do you know what makes our company tick? But equally, when you're looking at a client set of accounts, are you just looking at the figures, or are you looking at the business? What is it that they do? What makes them tick? That's the difference between a good accountant and a great accountant. If I was to give top tips to graduates, I always go back to the 4 Ps: passion, personality, preferences, and principles. So what do I mean by that? Well, passion, definitely it helps if you have passion for what you're doing. You're more likely to succeed if you love what you're doing, and the bad days are easier. Personality, do you have the right personality for what you're doing? So for example, a salesperson, they have to be a particular type of personality. So they have to enjoy meeting people, you know, getting that sale, you know, and wanting to drive the business forward. But if you're an introvert, you're not going to be suited to a sales position. So again, understanding your own personality and what suits you. Preferences, this has got to do with what kind of work culture would I feel most comfortable in. For some people, it's a very big company. For others, it's actually, well, I'd rather feel part, you know, of a smaller company where there's maybe more of a nice ethos where people are a team or a family type of approach. Again, that's your preference. And then your principles. So basically, is your chosen career aligned to your own values? So if you can answer all those questions, it'll certainly help you in your search to find the right job. The other top tip I would give graduates is to really do your research on a company. It's not just about having a quick 10-minute look on the website, because the way we see it, it's not just about us when we're recruiting people. It's about you as well, and it has to work both ways. And then lastly, really, it's about commitment. As John alluded, he came in here on a 3.5-year contract. That's a massive commitment. So you want to be sure, whatever company you're signing up to, that it ticks all the boxes for you too, and that, you know, it is the right place for you to be for your training. Then our interview process, just to explain a little bit briefly how that works. What we'd ask graduates to do is to go to our website. You can download our graduate application form from the careers section. Take the time to fill it out, and then you can send it directly on to me. My email address is there, and I take a look at it. If I have a well-presented application form and CV and a good cover letter, that will always go in your favour. And the next step will be to conduct a telephone interview, and that will be with myself, and that will only take 30 minutes of your time. And then if that goes well, we organise a one-to-one interview with myself and one of the firm's partners. And then obviously if that goes well, we go into offer, and then a date is confirmed. So that just gives you a brief overview of our interview process. And I'm going to give you some top tips now, as I've been harping on about how important it is that you do your research. How do you ascertain, or how do you know this is going to be the right company for me? So take time to prepare some key questions that you'd like to ask your potential employer. Some of the top questions that I think will always help people decide, well, what is the company really like is, so what are your expectations of a trainee during the first 30 to 60 days of employment? Ask the person interviewing you, why do you like working for Dbass? You know, what challenges you? What do challenges other trainees face in Dbass, and how do they overcome them? Equally, how do trainees in Dbass collaborate with their manager in the company? These questions will help you get a much better understanding of the company, our culture, and how our trainees actually fit into the company. Then just to go on briefly about the package, to explain what it is that we offer our trainees. I'm not going to go through it individually, you can see it there, but I suppose if I could basically just point out one thing, what we're very strong is that we support our trainees. We want them to succeed. So from day one, when you come in to this company, we give you our time and attention. We have a very strong induction plan. We have a trainee Gantt chart, and basically from day in, day out, you're always learning. Then I suppose in relation to salary, I suppose, which is what everybody wants to know at the end of the day, our training allowance ranges anywhere between 22 to 25k. Other offerings is we have a yearly performance-based increments. We also have a firm bonus incentive scheme, among other things. What I suppose advice I would give to anybody is, when you're deciding what company you want to work for, if you can just park to one side the salary and the location and just ask yourself, why do I want to work for this company? What is it that they can give me that another company can't? And if you're not sure, at any stage, you can always pick up the phone or drop an email to myself or whoever and say, look, I just have a couple more questions that I'm not sure from the interview. Would you mind, give me a few minutes of your time? That's never a problem. Obviously, you get more information on ACA there on the links that we have. And just want to wrap it up by saying thanks to everybody for their time and attention. And I hopefully I haven't gone over time there, Catherine.
Bang on time, Jackie.
Oh,
excellent. Professional as I expected. Thanks to everybody for their contributions. And we've had a good interaction over the chat and over the questions function as well. So thanks to everybody for their participation. So what I'm just going to do is bring up our faces that little bit bigger, and just the last few minutes that we have just to address some of those questions that have come through. And I think you've addressed some of them already, but maybe just to reaffirm the answers in some of those areas. So the first is around the area of Dbass themselves supporting ACCA qualification, or do you have a preference for ACA? If anybody wants to take that, and we heard from both Giuliano and John that both of them are taking different tracks there. So maybe somebody wants to take that.
Jackie, I think that might be up for you. What do you think?
Yeah.
And we're very upfront. We would have a preference for ACA. Yes, that's a given. But having said that, as I explained, I think earlier in the presentation, it's not just about what's on paper. It's about the person too and the qualities that you can bring. So we put just as much weighting on that as we do anything else.
Yeah, that came across really clearly, your care for the individual choice that applicants are making and helping them on their journey. So if the fit is right, back to your 4 Ps there, Jackie, if the fit is right, the support is there. But it's just good to have that clarity around preferences, because, it's one of those things that's in students' heads as well. But good to see that both of the DKT graduates, that's also another important thing for those tuning in either live or who will be watching this on demand afterwards, that 2 of our graduates are in there at the moment at different training packages and starting at different dates. And I think it's really great to see that level of support of DKT graduates, and knowing that Dbass is a company that you can go to and will be considered. Yes. Jackie, you've said that the opening, it's immediate, so students could start applying now.
Absolutely, they could start applying now. That's no problem. I know a lot of companies just tend to give an info@ email address for applications. I prefer to see them directly myself. So by all means, send them on.
Yep, perfect. We will be doing that, and encouraging you to make those appointments with the careers office to help you in that application. And just finally on that, a good question came in around maybe the 2, Giuliano and John, in terms of your advice or any particular one skill, bearing in mind the time that we have now, or tip that you would have for any final year students or penultimate year students in terms of managing their application processes, or one thing you'd like to say if you were back in that stage again, what it is you might do or give a tip or advice on?
I don't know about Giuliano, but I think, I'm sorry, you're okay there, Giuliano?
Oh no, you can go ahead, John.
Yeah, I think you should mainly focus on what exactly you want to do. I know I went through the effort of actually just applying anywhere and everywhere and going to interviews in Dublin and other places, and generally it was a while later that I said, well, I don't really want to work there, I don't want to do that, and I was taken away from the college process and everything there, and so I just decided to focus on that. So I think you should really just look into exactly what area you want to work in and focus on that first of all.
So a more focused job search and sort of doing that effort in advance rather than doing this random scattergun application sort of effect. Perfect. John, Giuliano, anything from yourself?
Yeah, I think it would be kind of similar with John, that just on the basis that instead of going around applying for everywhere, do kind of your research and really delve deep into where you want to go, whether it is practice or industry, what qualification are you going to pursue, because they may seem quite similar but between ACA and ACCA, but they do have their differences. So I'd say it'd be best to do your research, because I feel sometimes it's when you're pursuing this qualification, it's not really a sprint, it's a marathon at the end of the day. So it's important to maybe keep that in mind when you're doing your research on applying to companies and when you're pursuing your qualification. So hopefully that answers that question.
Absolutely, and wise words from both of you. And for those who are sitting there saying that these two students were in your seats literally a few years ago, so just taking that on board is really important. Look, our time is up. It went really quickly, really interesting and engaging presentation, really useful information from all of you. So thanks very much for your time and your continued support of DKIT and our graduates.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Catherine.
Thank you. Thanks, Catherine.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.